Listen in for some positivity and good times. The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I have here Miss Dawna Campbell, and we're going to get to know her today. And so, tell us about you.
Well, I'm Dawna Campbell, as you said, and I am known in the media as the Mind Whisperer for the ability to create instant change when your subconscious and your consciousness align. And these are some of the secretive techniques that I learned from a medicine woman, a yoga healer, and some Buddhist monks.
Oh, awesome. Okay, now I'm curious. Let's get into this.
All right.
So, tell me a little more in depth of actually what you do. Say I've come to you and I'm trying to, improve my life, become more successful. Where do we start?
So the first place we would start is I would ask you a couple of questions to understand what the feeling and emotional energy is that's blocking you from being more successful. So that would be the very first question. What does it feel not being as successful as you want to be? And then you were going to tell me how that feels. So some people will say it might be stressful, it might be frustrating, or, I get depressed from time to time because it just doesn't work out, or I get anxious. And what I do is I follow that energy back through the mind to the deeper subconscious, to an event that energy, that emotion, that feeling first got encoded in. And then we uncover what it was that you actually needed in that moment, and change the vibrational frequency and reprogram the brain to accept the new frequency versus the one it got stuck on. So then when you are doing the activities that you want to do, moving you forward, you are successful, although what you didn't change, because we changed how it felt in the deeper subconscious.
Okay, this had to be fate, because I had a dream last night, and I dreamed about Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis Presley, all these different celebrities who have passed on. And so, my wife, she's into a lot of the same things that you are. And so I asked her, I said, this kind of worries me, because to me, it was like an omen, a bad omen. And she actually looked it up, and she said, kind of what you were saying, that there's something that I'm either blocking, or I'm just not moving the way I want things to move. And so, which is true, I'm trying very desperately to really grow the channel. I haven't been able to work for a few years now because I have spinal problems. And so, but I don't want to live off the government, if that makes sense. I want to make my own money. And so I thought this would be a great way of doing it. So I've tried to make sure that my guests and the show themselves are great and informative, that I can help people. But I'm at that point of frustration where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, that it's not blowing up the way I would like to. So walk me through it.
Okay.
I'm going to pick your brain now.
All right. Can we just use you as an example then?
Sure. Be perfect.
All right. So where do you feel that frustration at in your body?
I think, well, a lot of it is my thinking. I tend to overthink, I guess, and I do lose sleep. I've already suffered from insomnia, but whenever I have these things going through my mind constantly, it makes it worse. And I wouldn't say depressed. I think I've handled depression pretty well, something I've fought since I was a kid, but I do feel that frustration. It's almost down in my soul.
Okay. So in the physical body, just so we have a point of reference, where else do you feel the frustration besides in the soul essence? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your chest area? Is it in your head? Is it
I would say it's in my chest.
okay? So, when was the first time you remember feeling that frustration energy in the chest area? How old were you really?
Ooh, that would be something that I felt all the way back from, I guess it was about 12 or 13.
Yeah. And then this is the part where we would get into the event or events that happened around 12 or 13. The subconscious records every event from the moment you're born to the moment you exit this earth. And it's constantly assigning emotions and feelings to those events.
Mhm.
The problem is we're only aware of this about 10% of the time. So scientists measured Albert Einstein's brain and his conscious awareness was 10%. So what we just did was we went back through the feeling, we reversed engineered it to the event of when you can remember when you first felt that frustration energy, and the body gives us that point of reference. So the next step here would then to be ask you, what happened at 12 or 13 for you that you were frustrated?
That was actually when I first started really working.
Mm-hmm,
And I know I was a child, but my father had his own business, and so I would work for him.
mm-hmm,
And I don't know, I've always been a perfectionist.
uh-huh.
I always wanted to do the best job that I could, and I guess I felt like that was that was my frustration. I just didn't feel like I was doing a good enough job.
Yeah. And not feeling good enough or doing a good enough job. When did that energy first start for you?
That was,
Before 12 or 13?
oh, I guess I could actually attribute that to, I was around 7 or 8 years old.
Hmm. And what was that event?
Well, I get a little personal here. I was actually molested at that age. So,
Okay. Yeah. So you can see how we go down layer by layer and how deep it can go. Without going any further and into other details around that, what we can do is start making some pivots and shifts, which is what I call the technique the medicine woman taught me, and start shifting that frustrating energy and the not good enough energy. And so around 7 or 8, when those events happened for you, there was something else that you needed. You didn't need to be sexually abused in any capacity to not feel good enough. Abuse is anything that violates our sense of worth or diminishes a child's sense of worth. So it can cross all kinds of categories. But for you, you needed something different in those moments, not that not good enough feeling. What did you need for you?
I wanted to be validated. My father was very critical of everything that I ever did,
Yeah.
and I never did anything good enough for him, even though I made really good grades. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I it's kind of difficult, but um, just nothing I ever did was good enough. I'll just
Right.
put it at that.
And there's deeper layers back below 7 and 8 with dad, other things, other healing um, that we can do around that. But just for this purpose here of how this part of the process works, you needed to feel validated. If you would have been validated, how would you imagine that would have felt?
I think I probably would be, in my own mind, more successful.
Mhm. And what does that success feel like being validated?
It's a sense of accomplishment. Um, it would be, I would feel like I have that purpose in life.
Right. Accomplishment, a sense of purpose. Close your eyes for a minute.
Okay.
Feel that accomplishment and that sense of purpose. And how does that truly feel inside? What does that give you that's good and positive?
It gives me a sense of joy,
Mhm.
like I could take on the world.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where we would pivot and shift some of this energy for you. And what I do, you can open your eyes,
Okay.
is use a meditation technique. And what I do is I go deeper into meditation. I'm going to ask to enter your space. I'm going to ask you if you want to change this. And when you say yes, it's going to start happening. So is it okay to go ahead and enter your space? Yes?
Oh, yes.
Because physics says there's no time or space, and we can be in a shared energy field, although we're in two different locations. We're always all connected. Would you like to have the ability to be validated through joy without not being enough and without frustration? Yes?
Yes, very much so.
Create it now. And what happens for you when you have that happiness and you're validated in that and you're successful and you have that sense of accomplishment? What comes next for you?
Success.
Right? Okay. So, would you also like to have that success in creating the happiness and the joy without frustration and not good enough? Yes?
Yes.
Creator now. There's a couple of deeper layers here that I'm shown, but let's go back and let's look at age 7 or 8 when those events happen and tell me, how does it look different for you?
To me, it looks like it happened to someone else.
Yeah. So it changed, right?
Yes.
And it's a different scenario. So when we go back to 12 and 13 and you first started working, wanting to do your best to be a perfectionist and to have that validation, take a look at 12 and 13 and tell me, what does that look like for you now?
That's for someone at that age, I was doing pretty good.
Yeah. Different point of view, right?
Yes.
So through this pivot and shift technique, the medicine woman taught me how to do, and it's an energetic exchange within you that I'm witnessing. She shared with me in every moment, every possibility always exists. It's just that our mind, that subconscious, got stuck on certain energies and frequencies. We forgot to look and see what the other ones are. And because they're higher vibration and frequency, then what happens is it will override the lower vibration and frequency. And part of this resonates with Nikola Tesla when he said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. And that's all we're doing is we're shifting the frequency. When that happens, there's a new chemical balance that's created in the synapse between the two neurons in the brain, where our hormones go through, our feelings go through, and it happens in a fraction of a second. And that's why I can say instantaneous change. If you were to rub an onion on the bottom of your foot, you would taste it in your mouth in a matter of seconds. That's how fast everything is moving on the inside of your body. So, what we just did was we recoded those two events with a different higher frequency. So, you saw it from a different point of view. Are there more layers to look at and more things? Absolutely, because you went through a lot of things when you were little. And yes, there's some things you can do when you were in the womb and things that you can do when you're first born to repair, recreate that type of a better, different relationship with your father to overcome. So there's deeper levels. But for this example here, the next point of reference we're going to go back and take a look at, and that's why I ask certain questions, is how does your chest area feel where you first felt that energy?
Feels like it's something's been lifted off of my chest.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that energy has weight. When I first, I was in the financial services industry for a decade,
Mhm.
and I was responsible for $500 million of other people's money. And that stress, the worry, the pressure, it broke down my health. And I didn't know, but after 2 years, I finally sought out natural healing and natural medicine and discovered what I was digesting was the emotion of anger. Now, I grew up in a very angry household, and my marriage was less angry, so I thought I was doing better. But what
Mhm.
was angry about it was the infidelity of it, and I just couldn't be in that environment anymore. So I left as my body recovered. And that was my first introduction to how emotions affect our body. And when I started repairing my body, learning these techniques, I lived in an ashram for a year to uncover meditation and science and physics and how does all of this really work and how can we really be true creators of our own reality. My whole digestion system, it repaired, but the anger wasn't there, but that anger had a weight. So when I wasn't in that angry environment, I released the excess 40 pounds my body was holding on to in a matter of 3 months after having my second child because I was no longer angry or in an angry environment. I was truly happy for one of the first times in my life. And that weight carried a physical weight and it came off of my body. So it's exactly what you felt, the burden lifting off of the chest. Not that you're going to lose 40 pounds in your chest, but it had an energetic, emotional weight and it feels different. Now, you said last night you had a dream and there was a bunch of people in there. So tell me, how does that dream look to you now?
I have to think about that one for a moment. Um, I mean, it was exciting
Mm-hmm.
because here are people that, I mean, I really, I love these people. They're
Yeah.
the music
They're
is
icons.
always right. The
Yeah.
music has always been a part of my life. I can't really remember when I didn't have music as part of my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the first songs I ever sang as a kid was an Elvis song. So
Perfect. So now let's look forward just for a moment and tell me, how does things look for you moving forward?
I feel this is going to be a success.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help other people the best that I can. And I think that especially when I bring someone like you on that has
Mhm.
something to really offer, gives people hope and
Yes,
inspiration.
absolutely. So I just gave you a real quick mini version of what it would be like in an hour session and the main points that we go over with a little bit of the teaching and mentoring in between. Because we start with where you are physically, knowing where you want to go. We go to the past to clear what was stopping it. We come back, recheck the physical, the present moment, and then we start looking into the future and bringing in the qualities of the future into the present moment. So when that happens, it's like if you're here in the present moment, we loop around to the back
Mhm.
to clear the past and recheck the present moment, making sure all of that shifted and cleared. Then we move into the future and we bring it back to the present moment. And then we tie that the future into today so it's not something that we're continually waiting for. When we do it through this process, we always create an infinity symbol. And when you turn that infinity symbol the other direction, it's a figure eight. And in numerology, the figure eight relates to abundance every single time. So, what we're doing is we're always clearing and bringing in the future into the now to create abundance. And that's what my book, Financially Fit, is about. And it talks about living the secrets to an abundant and prosperous life, utilizing what I just shared with you.
Now, I had spinal surgery about
Mhm.
4 to 5 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And although I'm more mobile than I was, I still have quite a bit of pain.
Yes.
And so I've been going to a pain specialist, and I got the injections actually last Thursday that was supposed to help block that pain from my
Mhm.
nerves.
Mhm.
Could that be part of why I'm still having so much pain? Because even the doctor says you should be getting
Yeah.
relief by now.
Yes. And that can be a part of it. So, what we would do in the process, because this works in areas of health, wealth, and relationships,
Mhm.
because everything can be denoted to vibration and frequency. So, we would look at why you had surgery, what happened before the surgery, and when those events originated, just like going back to the past, and uncover those emotional components that are blocking the healing energy from coming in. So right now you're in pain and the energy of the spine and the surgery is resonating in pain. When we increase your vibration and you're up here, this energy of pain can't exist in the body because you're vibrating at a different frequency. So, what we need to do is uncover what that resonating energy to pain is. And more often than not, the emotional component is holding on to some sort of guilt. So, when we uncover what that guilt is from whatever those time periods are, we can shift and change it. And when the guilt leaves, the pain doesn't associate to it, it also leaves the body. And then you're in increased vibration and the healing process can happen. So everything can be denoted down to that.
I know I first started having really bad back pain. I was about 25,
Hmm.
and what would happen is when my back would go out, it's almost the only way to describe it is like if I was an old man, and yeah, I could barely even move my feet to move from one spot to another.
Hmm.
And I worked for the city, and I guess I could say that I worked for the city of Baytown at the time. And when I'd go to their doctor, all they want to do is throw pain pills and muscle relaxers at me.
Right.
And about the third time that happened, I looked at the doctor and said, "Look, man, I don't want you to keep throwing pills at me. I want to fix the problem."
Hmm.
And of course, he gets mad at me. He thinks that I'm there trying to get drugs, and I'm like, "Did you not hear what I just said? I'm trying to get away from the drugs."
Right.
Um, anyway, I left the city of Baytown. I went to work for the city of LaPorte, and that's in Texas, by the way. LaPorte, when it happened to me there, they actually sent me to a sports medicine guy. Shows
Hmm.
me how to do stretches and exercises to help strengthen my back. And I didn't have problems for years.
Right.
But then, and it's funny how it all started, is I was sitting on the floor. I remember it was Thanksgiving, stretched my arms out, kind of leaned my head back, and I got this real bad pain down my arm.
Hmm.
And I had several years before had a heart attack. And so
Hmm.
I thought I was having another heart attack. So my wife took me to the emergency room. They did all kinds of tests. They said, "You're not having a heart attack. Let's do an MRI, see if something happened." And ended up my neck was out of line.
Hmm.
And we moved up here to the Austin area, and I went to a doctor and he did the x-rays. He says, "We can fix you." They put a cage around my neck, and they put a pin or whatever in it and
Hmm.
did a fusion, the whole 9 yards. Neck was fine. But then not too long after that, I was having problems with my back again.
Yeah.
So once again, back to a pain management doctor. I'm like, "What's going on?" They did all these tests. Come to find out, my spine was actually deteriorating,
Hmm.
and it was in my L4 and L5.
Hmm.
And we got all these injections, blah, 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 blah. Moving forward, I go to their doctor. He tells me there's absolutely nothing we can do for you. All we can do is manage your pain. And I'm like, "This can't be." So I went back to the guy that did my neck and I said, "Can you help me?" "Yes, we can help you." They went in, they did put another cage, put another pin, but this time they put a bone graft in there. When I went back for the first um, follow up, he told me, "Yes, it's the bone graft is taking, it's working like it's supposed to. You're just going to have one solid bone instead of two bones now." Like,
Hmm.
hey, as long as I don't have to
Right.
deal with this anymore. Mind you, I'd been using a wheelchair and a cane for 2 years,
Mhm.
and now I don't have to. I'm still tired of the pain, so
Right,
now I got to work through this.
right. So we would always go back to the first originating point, which for you was age 25 when that first started. And we would look at the events that were going on for you around that age and maybe even the year or so before, because your back is all about also support. And bones are also about your relationship or connection to oneness, spirit, creator, whatever word you have for that. And so we would look at some of those different components. But here's the one thing that I have learned throughout my life, because I got to be my own first client, is that anything that got created in the body can be discreated and created new again. Everything is reversible. Is it going to go back exactly the way it was before? Probably not, because on some component, that's what got you into the state of being that you are now. But we can recreate it in a different way that's better, and it will be better than what it was before this energy here got created. And that's like one of the number one principles. It can always be discreated and recreated again. I spent 2 years with the medical community. They could not figure out what was wrong and why I had so much pain in the stomach area. And they changed my medication every 2 weeks until I said enough. And I went off of everything cold turkey. And it was because the mucus lining in my stomach wasn't regenerating, so I couldn't digest food. So I didn't have calcium in my body, I didn't have potassium in my body, and I did every possible test. But it wasn't until I uncovered what those emotional components were and made the changes in my life that were necessary that all of that reversed. And to this day, here we are, 16 years later, not an issue, not a problem. I don't have a gallbladder now. I'm supposed to take stomach enzymes. I can pretty much eat and do what I want and how I choose without any of that, because I trained my body to process food normally as if it did have a gallbladder, because I put all of those qualities back into me.
Well, I know I want to get better. I want to be more active again. I'm trying. Believe me, I'm
You're doing,
trying.
you really
Now I have to ask you,
are. Uh-huh.
because when whenever I'm meeting, say, like a psychic medium,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to do a reading on me, I
Uh-huh.
always get this butterfly feeling in my stomach, and I'm not saying that you're a psychic medium, just
Uh-huh.
I felt almost like you were trying to connect with me just as soon as we started talking.
It happens naturally. It's a natural process for
Yeah.
me. There's two components to what I do. One is the healing side, but in order to do the healing, I have to be able to read and understand the energy, which is a very intuitive process. So readings are a part of it. And when I merge space with another person, it automatically starts giving and I receive the information that is necessary for the other person. And you feel my energy field as well, because when I get ready to podcast or speak or go on stage, it just automatically magnifies as part of the process for me. It's not anything that I have complete control over, I'll say. But all of that information comes, but it's a very intuitive process, yes. So the psychic medium side of it is a part of it, because I have to be able to see and read what's going on in the body to understand what needs to shift and change so you get the best result that you can have for you.
Okay. So basically you are like a psychic medium then.
And that's a part of it, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's fascinating. And you said you've written a book.
Right, financially fit, which is on the wealth category. But when you were talking earlier and you were talking about some things with your dad, I already knew there was some things with your dad. And there's more, which is why we're not going to go down that road.
Thank you.
Because I feel, see, experience as if I am you in different ways. I only get little glimpses, but I also know that there's more layers underneath. So So yeah, that's a whole part of the process. And it helps me in asking the questions so you can uncover what's going on in the subconscious, because it's like I'm a watcher, I'm from a third party, and you can see, feel, experience for the other person, make those changes so it leaves them and the new can come in. And it's all done through energy, vibration, and frequency.
Okay, so if I'm going to get into meditating, and I have done meditating in the past, I'll admit that I'm not very consistent with it.
Mhm.
But my first real experience with meditating is I did a past life regression,
Uh-huh.
and I started out doing it, and then I totally just walked away and didn't think about it anymore. But if I wanted to get into meditating, how would I go about doing it?
There's a couple, well, actually, several different ways to meditate. A lot of times people think that you have to have no thought and clear your mind, and that's not true. All that meditation really is altering your brainwave patterns to lower cycles per second to receive and understand that and all of that intuitive information. So the best ways to meditate is what the yogic healer taught me. And he taught me how to focus my senses. And he taught me 5 different meditations. One meditation's my absolute favorite is using breath work. Because when we breathe in, we're breathing in oxygen and all the good things in life. And when we breathe out the toxins and the things our body doesn't need. So what he has me do is he has me breathe in, but I'm also thinking a good positive word like kindness or abundance or success. And then when I breathe out what's not working for me, frustration, bitterness, stress. And so you just breathe in kindness, breathe out bitterness. And you would do that for 3, 5, 10 minutes. I set a timer on my phone. When you focus on that and you're just focusing on the breathing and those your 2 words, a positive word and a negative word as you breathe, you're focusing your mind. So the mind chatter stops. And when the mind chatter stops, the cycles per second lower in your brainwave patterns from a beta to an alpha to a theta brainwave, where meditation happens. And then the next thing you know, you're just like suspended in space, breathing. The thoughts, the words, even the kindness, bitterness words are just gone, and you're in complete meditation at that point. So those are techniques that you use to get yourself into that energy of meditation. But the goal of meditation is not to have thought, it's to focus the energy.
Gotcha. Well,
So in Financially Fit, even though it's the wealth category of what people want to have with prosperity and abundance, I do have written meditations in there and recorded meditations because it will focus your senses and you can release the energies that are not helpful, those lower vibrating ones, and it brings in the energies that are needed to have the abundance and the prosperity. And they're written throughout the book. You can read them, you can record them, you can listen to them on YouTube. They're free.
so when we get done with the interview, if you could give me all the links like to your book and to your YouTube and that, I would like to add that in the description so people can find you. Now, also when you're doing your work, do you use things like talismans or crystals or anything like that?
Not when I'm on like here. I didn't use anything or have anything to do the work that we did with you, just making those small adjustments. Can you use them? Yes. Are they needed? No, because even a crystal or an essential oil or any sort of talisman or anything like that still has a vibration, energy, and essence. And where we're already working with the unseen world, you can just send the essence of what that is if you are needing it, if you don't have the actual tool. But tools are fun. It's like medicine in your medicine bag, and they just bring happiness and joy. So I do have crystals and things around my house, but it's not anything that I utilize when I work with someone. And most of the time, it's just on the phone. I'm not even connected face to face through Zoom or anything because we're on the phone and I'm sitting with my eyes closed most of the time.
What I find is fascinating is how you're able to connect with people even when you're not in the same room.
Yeah,
I know
gotta
other
love business, right?
Yeah. Well, I've known mediums that they'll be on a phone call or they'll be on a Zoom call or something like that, and they're able to connect and to be
Yeah,
able to tell people there's absolutely nothing or no way they could have known.
exactly.
That's like, how do you do that?
Right. Well, physics learned and taught us that you don't have to be in the same place. So they did all kinds of experiments. And one experiment was they took two liver cells and they put one in one location, say country A, and one in country B. And what they did was they traumatized the cell of country A, and the cell that was in country B responded as if it was also traumatized, although it was never touched. So there's no time or space. And the way that works is we're all connected by a divine essence. It's the space in between everything. So even in your own body, in between your own cells, there's a small little thin layer of space. Nothing ever really touches. And it's through that space, that essence, that you can move through and be connected to other people. We do this all the time naturally. You're walking down the hallway to the sales meeting, you know if it's going to be a great sales meeting and everyone made their numbers, or everyone's in trouble because you did not meet your benchmarks for Wall Street.
Right.
And they knew, my advisors knew which one it was going to come before the sales meeting when I was in the financial services world. And what you're feeling is that energy essence that's in between the space of everything, but it's also considered your energy field in your aura, which will expand naturally 3 to 6 feet around you. But it doesn't have to be in the same location or the same place. If you know how to change your brainwave patterns into that meditative state naturally, you can move through that space pretty seamlessly. They said Buddha could be felt physically for 5 miles wherever Buddha went. That's a pretty big energy field.
Right.
Now, just taking that, you can do the same thing and be in a shared energy space without being in the same physical location because you're in that different brainwave pattern.
Yeah.
Which is why how you felt me going, wait, I have butterflies. Is this person like a psychic medium? You knew.
I just knew.
Yeah.
I actually felt it, and I only feel that feeling when somebody's trying to connect with me.
Mhm.
So it's like, doing it to me again, doing it to me again. Now,
Yeah.
have you ever watched Ghost Hunters?
Every once in a while, it's been a really long time. So
Well, when the first group were they were on television, they set up a thermal camera,
mhm.
and one of the guys was sitting on a couch, and there was a psychic that was sitting in a chair right next to him, and they wanted to try an experiment, and sure enough, you can see the colors around everybody, and you could actually see the colors reaching out from the one guy to the other guy and connecting and surrounding him. I'm like, that's fascinating, but I could see that happening in the same room. I just didn't understand how in the world could that happen from so far away, but you explained
Yeah.
it pretty well.
Yeah.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So, do you actually have clients come to your house? Do you have an office, or
Mhm.
do you just do that over the phone? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, with an international practice for the last 11, 12 years, about 95% of what I do is on the phone.
Mhm.
And that's how we connected. So people often, well, how did this whole last year and how did it affect? And it's like, well, it didn't because I was already on the phone and we just use the different phone apps to connect internationally. Zoom's changed that a little bit, connecting this way, but I sometimes laugh because I say, well, I'm going to sit here with my eyes closed, and then they have their eye closed, and it's like we're on a video call and no one's looking at each other. But it's just through the phone, and to connect because you can move your energy in a lot of different ways. You don't have to physically see the person to read the energy, and you don't have to be in the same location. All you have to do is change your own brainwave patterns and then shift into and then have the ability to read the energy of what's going on within them.
Okay.
So
Where
yeah.
are you located?
I live in Montana.
Montana.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
you can live anywhere in the world, and I can with what I do. I choose to live here because I love being outside and I love being in nature and I love being physically active. So I choose to live here and I travel the world and I get to come back. So yeah.
That's kind of why we moved up here to the Austin area, because I mean, you have the hills and nature, and the water's clear and
Yep,
clean, and you have so many animals, and it's just beautiful up here. And there's something about connecting with nature that kind of helps
absolutely.
to cleanse your body.
Hmm.
But,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I would love to visit Montana. That's been on my bucket list.
It's beautiful here. So I'm about 45 minutes from Glacier and I'm at the top of Flathead Lake. So, and there's mountains everywhere. So if you ever come up this way, come look us up. Be fun.
You know what? I will do that. So were you born there in Montana?
No, I moved in several years ago, about 6, 7 years ago. I came up from Idaho. I'm originally from California, but I've been out of the state of California since I was kind of little. I was in my teenage years. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm pretty much from Montana now.
Oh,
So
I hear you. We got all the people from California moving here to Texas.
yes, yes. We'll let them move to Texas. Uh,
We won't go there.
no, no, we have our fair share here. Our valley had an influx of 30,000 people
Oh my
and
goodness.
from like 3 major states. So in the
No
West,
kidding.
in just this little valley that I live in. Yeah.
Wow. But you've been pretty much over on the west side of the country all your life then.
Yes, yes, I have been. Although I have traveled most of the country and most of the states, I live in the West.
Okay. Well, I'll have to say this has been a really, really good talk. And I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, please share all your links and stuff with me so I can put it in the description. And I would love to have you back on in the future. Maybe you could help me with
Yeah,
something
I would love
else.
that.
I'm gonna
There
I'm
you
gonna
go.
I'm gonna pick your brain and steal as much as I can.
There you go. Perfect.
But Dawna, really, really thank you. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone that tunes in. And until the next one, take care and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network and on Instagram at The Vibes Broadcast.